Hi, Jay. Thanks for joining, Jay. Thank you so much. Stephanie, thanks for joining. For Elizabeth Gilmore, thanks for joining. Sheila, thank you. That's great. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I think Kimmy's coming today as well. I've got a private message from Kimmy Wynn.
Good. I knew
uh,
exactly who you meant.
yeah, she loves our show. So yeah, thanks, Laura, for joining. Thanks, Leslie, a lot for joining as well. Um, yeah, so I mean, at the moment, there's a lot happening, isn't there? Do you have some storms there in Philadelphia today, or yeah,
We do. I almost was going to have to cancel with you because we had a
yeah,
terrible storm come through just a
yes,
little while ago, and it was
yeah,
super windy,
yes.
and
Hi,
it was a
Bob.
ton of thunder and lightning. And I'm like, I'm afraid to get on.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
because
I don't know what to do. But I'm like, oh, please just let it pass. And it seems to have passed. There's still some rumbling. So hopefully
yes,
we wouldn't lose any, you know,
yeah,
like power
yeah.
here or whatever.
Power,
But
yeah. I know. I mean, it should be okay because you probably have some battery on your phone as well, to keep
I
you
do.
going.
So my phone dies out really quick. I don't know if it's because it's an
Yeah,
old model or whatever. So I have it
yes.
all powered up, but I also have it charging as we're on. You know
A
what I
lot.
mean? So
Wow. Yes.
yeah,
Okay, that's good, good. Have you when I posted out that we were gonna do our show, The Outsiders, and I said we'll probably talk about Thomas Massie, someone sent me a photo and it reminded me, like, years ago, Thomas Massie did this family Christmas photo
the
with the
Christmas
machine
guns.
guns. The mach
I knew exactly what you were
Hi,
gonna
Mary.
say.
Good to see
And
you,
the whole
Mary.
family standing there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the family
The
standing there
AR-15s.
with the machine guns, and I completely forgot that that was Thomas Massie because it was so long ago, and he looks quite different in the photo. And I was because I
He's
remember
changed a
that
lot in
photo.
his appearance. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I remember that photo got shown around Australia a lot because in Australia we don't have a very big gun culture here, as you probably know. People don't grow up with guns unless you kind of live on a farm, then it's different. But the guns are not for protection on farm; they're more for like killing animals, stock, all that sort of stuff. It's hi, Mary. Thanks for joining. So we don't look at guns as like but that photo to me, I think it went viral around the world because it was such a weird
He did.
photo. It, can I ask you a question? In America, I know there would be millions of people. Did a lot of people look at that and go, "That's weird"? Like there's a family Christmas photo with everyone with a machine gun. Like did that
Yeah.
wasn't?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, of course. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, like, I remember thinking that it wasn't just weird, but it was sick, honestly.
He
You know
was.
what I mean? I'm like, you're a Christian, right?
Yeah.
You're celebrating the birth of your savior, and you're
Yes.
celebrating it by holding a bunch of guns. Like,
Yeah.
it was just kind of ugly. And especially there was at that time there had just been a school shooting. And I mean,
Yeah.
like, I couldn't
Right.
even tell you
Yeah.
which one it was because there's so many of them that, like, it
Yeah.
doesn't even stand out to me which one it was.
Yeah.
But there had just been one too, and it just came across. I remember tweeting about it at the time, like, "Dude,
Yeah.
like, are you serious?" Like,
Yes.
and that's why it surprises me that I actually came to have a certain respect for Massie.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
Certainly had very many different views from him, but
Yes.
I appreciated the fact that he was one of the few Republicans that,
Yes.
had some balls to stand up to Trump a little bit,
Yeah.
and I gotta give him credit for that and for
Yeah.
sticking by the Epstein survivors as he did.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. But it's interesting, like, because I do give him credit for a lot of that stuff and, pushing back against Trump and doing that. But yeah, that gun thing just makes me realize that, that was just it was so insane because even if you're for guns, why would you want to celebrate them like
Right,
that, like a Christmas photo? Like, it's
right.
it's bizarre. Like, if you saw a family doing that in the Middle East, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, that's a bit weird." Like, could you imagine that, like, the Taliban? That's something I
Right.
imagine the Taliban would do. They'd have the whole
That's
family. Yeah,
that's what it's like. That's what it
yeah,
and that's what a lot of people here said at the time. They're like,
yeah,
they called them
yeah.
Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda.
Yeah, right, yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
it's like a
yeah, yeah.
southern thing, so it's like
Right
Al-Qaeda,
side.
but yeah, Al-Qaeda.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I'm not personally opposed to people. I'm not anti-gun completely,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
take
yeah,
all guns away.
yes,
I take the middle ground approach. I think that we should have much stronger rules for
yes,
who can have guns and what
mm,
kind of guns and all of that, but I'm not
yes,
strictly opposed to the Second Amendment. But that culture that
yes,
celebrates guns for the sake of guns, rather
yeah,
than
yeah,
looking
yeah,
at them like as sort of a, you know, kind of a necessity maybe in some cases, but not
yeah,
one you wish would ever have to use.
yeah,
That culture is what throws me off. That sort of
yeah,
fetishism of guns almost, really.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
guns for guns' sake. Yeah,
yeah.
I've never understood that.
It's a weird culture thing to have like that because I mean, as an Australian, I've never seen a gun. Hi Tommy, thanks for joining. I've never seen a gun outside of a policeman's holster in Australia.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
think the only
huge.
time I might have seen a gun is when I was on a farm when I was younger, and they had them in the sheds, but they were like put up, but they weren't for protection. Again, hi Kimmy, thanks for joining, Kimmy. We did it, and yeah. So for me, it's always been a bit of a weird, but it's different cultures and things like that. So I totally understand.
Yeah.
I've never seen a gun either. Mary
Good
said as
for you,
well.
Mary. That's
Yeah.
wow, that's something.
From milk.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
no.
not common for people. I mean, police officers have guns,
Right.
um, and I think one of the things that I think I don't like, I would say for hi Tamara, thanks for joining. I want you to bring me up, Tommy. Okay, yeah. Not sure what that means. I'm not sure what that means. Like, but hi Mary. Yeah, but I find like it is the fetishness of the guns that make most people are reasonable. Just don't want guns in their hands at the
Bobby is
yeah.
exactly right. Even let me
Yes.
give you an example. So a group
Yeah.
called 97%, right? That
Yes.
that I've done work with.
Yeah.
They polled just gun owners, not all
Yes.
Americans, just gun owners.
Yeah.
And 72% of gun owners
Yeah.
approve of red flag laws, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's
Okay.
where a
Yes.
family member could say, hey, my brother or my uncle or whoever is acting
Yeah.
crazy and he's got a gun and we're worried about him. And then they can,
Yeah.
they can take the gun away. It
Yes.
goes to a judge and all. I mean, it's like done by the book, but like
Yeah.
and you can potentially stop. And I mean, there's been studies done that it has stopped
Yes.
potential mass shootings, suicides, things like that. 72% of gun owners support that
Yeah.
law.
Yeah.
So
Right.
there's a
Yes.
lot more. That's actually a very small fringe. It doesn't appear that way because they're the loudest voices, the real
Yeah.
2A absolutists. But
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
part, people do,
Yes.
even people who own guns, because there's Democrats that own guns, right? There's something
Yeah.
like
Oh, for sure.
40% of
Yeah. Yeah.
Democrats own guns.
Yeah.
They, you know, they want the laws as well.
As well. Yeah. Now,
The
wasn't the
reasonable
Second
laws.
Amendment?
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the Second Amendment all about the fact that you might have a tyrannical government, and then you can overthrow the people can overthrow the tyrannical government? Is that the is that part of the Second Amendment? Is that a big part of it that you can that?
Well,
Yeah.
no, I mean, that's not it, that's not the word of it, right?
Yes.
I think that
Yes.
the gun culture has
Yes.
sort of made it about that. Um,
Yes.
and this is under debate, right? I mean, this
Yeah.
is something that even the Supreme Court has debated. And there's been
Yes.
different precedents over the years regarding guns that don't even agree with each other on what the meaning of the Second Amendment is. They had to establish that
Yes.
you could even have a gun for personal
Yes.
protection or something like that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
there is no real agreement on that. But what the Second
Yeah.
Amendment says is
Mm.
a regulated militia, right?
Yes.
So that it was more or less establishing the fact that um, there could be regulated ownership of guns. And now we
Yes.
hear militia and we think of like crazy people, like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
attacking the
Yes.
Capitol, but like
Yeah.
it meant that in a sort of military sense, right?
Yeah.
So like as a, and you got to remember they were just coming out of the Revolutionary War where
Yes.
you literally had redcoats in people's homes and things like that. They would
Yes.
station themselves there. There's a whole other amendment that just deals with that.
Yeah.
But and so it was the right of the people to keep and bear arms to in defense, right?
In defense. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but it specifically uses that word regulated,
You regulate.
and
So
now you have something.
yeah, so it'd have to be
Go
like
ahead.
the government saying, "Hey, we're all under attack. Um, everyone should have," so you're basically working with the government. So the people become part of the government, but so it's not necessarily the people fighting the government. Could be the people fighting
Well,
insurrectionists. Or was
well, yeah, no, that's a good point. But again,
yeah. Mm.
that's what's kind of up for
It's vague.
interpretation. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
that's what
anyone
makes
can
the Second
interpret.
Amendment so
Yeah.
difficult.
Yes.
Or it's one of the things that makes it difficult because it also
Yeah.
doesn't really, the Second Amendment absolutists wanted to mean that that you could have any weapon, like
Yeah.
there's no limit. You could have as many as you want, any kind of gun, anyone can have them. I mean, the way that
Mm.
just open carry has grown
Yes.
in this country just over the past 40 years. People
Yes.
don't realize that Texas 40 years ago had some of the strictest gun laws in the
Yes.
country, and that was Texas.
Yes.
Like,
Yes. Yeah.
everything has gotten much more open, and,
Yes.
the guns have proliferated, especially
Yeah.
when the assault weapons ban ended, right,
Yeah.
under Bush,
Yeah.
and still they said, "Well, no, we need more guns to control the guns."
Yeah,
It's
that's
madness.
right. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like,
I've
it's
heard Democrats say I've heard some Democrats in California say, "I don't want a gun, but, but since there's so many guns out there, I feel like I need to have a gun." So it becomes like a
exactly,
vicious
Bob.
cycle. Yeah, yeah, it becomes like a vicious cycle, being a separate security, yeah, but I've
It
always
does
thought
become a vicious cycle.
yes,
Well,
yeah, yeah,
Ice-T, the rapper Ice-T, he
yeah,
once
return, yeah,
said, he said,
yes,
he said, "I don't want guns, but, like, if you all have guns, I want guns."
yes,
Like, in other
yeah,
words, like,
exactly right,
he
yeah,
wants to
a
be as prepared as anybody else is, and then
yeah,
it's almost like nuclear proliferation at that point, right?
that's
If
right,
these guys
everyone
have them
wants
more
to
than we
have
want
yeah,
them, yeah, and then
yeah,
it just builds up, and that's kind
yeah,
of what's happened here on a smaller scale.
and I feel like in Australia, because most people don't have guns, you don't feel as threatened with the guns, because your neighbour probably doesn't have it. Other people don't have it. Like
Right.
we've had gun shootings. Obviously, we had the big one in December. That was the first one in 30 years. Um,
Yeah,
so
it was
you
awful.
know, but it's pretty rare in Australia, when you think
Yeah,
about the amount of time, and
very
actually
rare.
the person who did that, it was a father and son. He actually had legal guns. They were legal because he was a
Yes,
because he
remember
was a
that.
member of a
He
he
was
was a
an
member of a
immigrant, right?
yeah, no, he'd been here for like 30 years, and his son was born in Australia. Um, so they had been here for a while, but, I think they were radicalized by ISIS,
Yeah, I
and
think so too,
I
as I
will
recall.
say, that the father was, a member of a gun club, and that's one of the ways you can get a gun in Australia. You cannot get a gun in Australia by saying, "I want a gun to protect myself," right? Which is the
Yeah,
big thing in America. That's not
agreed,
a
Bob.
reason to have it. Yeah, I'm not a subscribers to guns aren't the problem. Yeah, Bob. Yeah,
It's not
um,
the what, it's the who, Bob. That
yeah,
it's
yeah.
the who. It's that are the like, it's the people who have them as
Yeah, I
opposed
mean,
to the
I,
gun.
I do, I do think,
That
I do
said,
think easy access to guns, like,
yeah,
like the way because if you have a mental health problem and, um, and you lose your mind, so you might not have had any problems, any major issues in the past, and you're in your because a lot of times it's family related with the guns, like it's someone might be domestic violence, might be someone you might lose it at school, whatever, because and and then what happens is you might have a spur of the moment thing. In Australia, it would be very hard for you to go and try to find a gun. It would be near
right,
impossible, right?
right.
So you might go and get a knife because it's an easy option, which is going to hurt less people generally. In
Right.
America,
It
if
kinda
someone
tastes
loses,
good.
yeah. So in America, if you lose your mind, you might. A lot of times, I hear stories. They just grab their dad's gun. They just grab their mum's gun. From the next door. So
Right.
it's those things.
It's
Or
not locked
even
up, it's easy access.
that's right. And also like with things like road rage. I noticed there was a thing about road rage in America. If you've got a gun in your car and you spur of the moment have a fight, you pull out a gun. In Australia, 99.9% of people are not going to have a gun, so they get out and they have a fist fight. So, so it's just that, you know what I mean?
Settle it
It's
the
that,
old-fashioned way.
yeah, the old Australian way is just to have a punch up. Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, but that's the only thing I'd say. Easy access to guns, and even
Yes.
because I feel like a lot of people can lose it under certain circumstances, and then they do it, and then but you don't want to give them easy access to lose it in that way. Um, I don't know. I feel bad saying this because wasn't brought up in America, so it's kind of like imposing Australia culture onto American culture. I know it's a different type of culture. Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah,
Well,
no, it's yeah,
can I say one more thing on the gun issue?
yes,
Did you hear the story about the guy in Texas that was just arrested? So he was a
yeah,
January 6er, right? And
yeah,
he was attacking cops with a crowbar.
yeah,
He was
right,
sentenced
yeah,
to
yeah,
5 years in prison.
yes,
And this is, by the way, just the latest about with these
yeah.
January 6 people.
Oh yeah,
And there's been
I've seen a lot.
quite a few of them. And
Yeah,
he, a week or 2 ago, was in a parking
yes,
lot at a church, and he was
yes,
threatening a guy with a gun. Now, mind you, this guy was, of course, pardoned, released from his 5-year prison sentence by Trump last year.
yes,
Well,
yeah,
now he's back in jail. But the
yes,
question is, can those people have guns? They have a
yeah,
presidential pardon, right?
right, yes, yeah,
Technically speaking, they're no longer a felon, technically speaking. So therefore, because usually once
yes,
you're a felon, you can't have a gun, right?
yeah, right, yes,
Legally, anyway.
yeah,
But Trump, not only the pardons of the January Sixers, but he's
yes,
also rolling back
yes,
that idea. He's been given some clemency to felons to be able to have guns again. So that's
yeah,
yet
right,
another,
yes,
it's like way that he has
yeah.
actually made the country more violent.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. And there's been so many stories of those January 6s who've been pardoned, who
Yeah.
went on. I think there's 6 of them. I think I counted 6 of them who ended up doing some sort of child molestation or
Child,
child abuse.
yes.
Yeah,
E-
yeah. I,
Exactly.
I think I counted 6 of them. And it's funny because hi Sandra, good to see you. That's me, Sandra. Hi Sandra, good to see you. They because they often will say stories about Joe Biden letting these immigrants from overseas, and then those immigrants, they some of them, a small percentage did violent things, right? And then
Right.
they'll talk about that all the time, or they'll use their names all the time, right? But they don't like talking about the fact that Trump pardoned all these January
Yeah.
6 people, and many of them went on to like do heinous crimes, heinous crimes. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Um, and
Exactly.
they wouldn't have done that if they hadn't been released from prison so early. So, yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. And so he
yeah,
had a direct hand in that. And the percentage
yeah,
of even undocumented immigrants, not even counting,
yes,
immigrants who came in completely legally, or even residents, legal residents, all that.
yes,
The percentage of them that commit
yeah,
violent crime is
yes,
is so infinitesimally low compared
yes,
to
100%.
Americans, born
Yes,
American citizens that do.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
that gets all the
exactly.
news. So,
Yeah, but they always
yeah,
highlight the tiny percentage of people
right.
who did that. Of yeah, yeah, it's an easy thing to do when you have so many 340 million people in a country. You can always get some example of one person who's done anything like yeah. Because
Right.
if your benchmark is 0% of immigrants are going to create crimes, that's never going to happen because they're human
Of
beings and
course.
there's always going to be so. But that's kind of how
Naturally.
they work on. They find that small percentage of people. But if you say to them, because I've been on Twitter and I've had people, and I've said to people on Twitter like MAGA, I said, but what about all these people that Trump pardoned? Oh, well, that's only a tiny percentage. Oh, and I'm like, well, hold on. Like, isn't that the same story with like that? Or there was a story that went around with MAGA the other week. You know how they have this obsession with drag queens? They think all the drag queens reading stories to kids was like
Yes.
this
Yeah.
massive, massive issue because they're all child molesters, all this sort of stuff, right? And the
Yeah.
percentage of drag queens who do that is like insanely, insanely low. Um,
Right.
like, yeah, but they found one the other week. There was one. They didn't do it during child reading. It was like separate to that, right? And they sort of and all the big accounts like the Babylon Bee, all the big Twitter accounts, Libs on TikTok, all those, they were sharing the stories of this one, because they got this one. But the
One.
Democrats, told us it didn't happen, and so I went on Libs on TikTok and I reposted the 6 people from that January 6th were pardoned who all sexually assaulted children, and all the responses, even from like Benny Johnson, who replied to me on there, who's like a big
Really?
guy.
Oh, he
Yeah,
responded to you?
yeah, he responded to me, and he said, for some reason, for some reason, Twitter seems to like when I respond. You know what I think it is? Twitter's algorithm is designed for engagement, and because I spend a lot of my time with talking to MAGA, not my own people, like talking to them, I create more engagement because they love coming at me because it's like, so therefore Twitter will send me to the top. So sometimes I won't post something for 20 minutes and they'll send me straight to the top. And it's because I'm being attacked by 100 people because
Right.
I've gone on
Yeah.
to Benny Johnson's or some right, and a lot of left-wing people, they don't go on those things. So they're generally just everyone liking each other. And then you get me coming on saying, "Well, what about the 6th, January 6th?" And they're like, "Oh,
Right.
you're like," it's like, yeah. And then they become reasonable. Because I'll go, "Oh, yeah, that's fine, Joe, but you're talking about 6 people. This is a very small." I said, "What a sec. You're on Libs of TikTok account talking about one drag queen out of like how many
Uh,
drag queens, and you're saying
Thousands.
that why are you talking about this if this is, oh, but you guys said no, I don't. I said, can you tell me one person who said 0% of drag queens have ever been like they make the benchmark up here. Yeah, it's
Well, not
incredible.
only that, but the percentage is insane, right?
Yeah.
So think about it. How many what was it, like 15 or 1,600, there were 15 or 1,600 J6 defendants, right? January
Yes.
6th
That's
defendants.
right.
There's
Yeah.
probably hundreds of thousands. I have no idea. Tens of thousands of drag
Yes.
queens. I have the slightest idea. I couldn't tell you, but there's a lot more.
Yeah.
It's a much bigger universe than that, right?
Yeah.
And they're saying that one out of that,
Yeah. Yes.
hun- does few dozen thousand. I don't know how many you would say. I have
Yes.
no idea how many
Yes.
drag queens there are, but
Yeah.
they're saying that that's a bigger percentage, or that's more
Yeah.
important than 6 out of
Yeah.
1,500.
That's
The
right.
math
Yeah.
that math just doesn't work. You know what I
It
mean?
doesn't work out.
They're wrong. They're just
Or they
wrong.
or they're very quiet about the percentage of Catholic priests who
Yeah,
molested, which was about, I think, 5%, which is extraordinarily high. Do you know what
which
I mean?
is
Uh,
extraordinarily high.
yeah, yeah.
And
Uh,
yeah,
yeah, they don't
no,
think about that.
I don't disagree
Yeah.
with you, even as a Catholic.
No,
That's not a
I'm an
Catholic school.
ex-Catholic,
I know you.
and
I know we're Catholic school kids,
and
right?
Catholic schools, and I never had a bad experience. I never had a
No,
bad
me
experience.
neither. I love
I
Catholic.
had a great experience in my Catholic schools, so I have no.
Same.
It's not.
No, I did
Yeah,
too. I
yeah,
loved Catholic school. I wouldn't have changed it. I wouldn't have
yeah.
changed it. And my daughter went to
Yeah.
Catholic school.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah, yeah,
She
yeah.
went to the same
Yep.
high school as me, actually.
Oh, wow. Yeah. The
Yeah.
thing I like about Catholic churches is it's like extravagant. It's like a big everything's like a big show. Everyone dresses up. It's like the priest. Like if you go to like an Anglican one, it just feels like a bunch of people gone to the pub or something. You know what I mean? Like it's like a little bit more, which is actually probably a better thing. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
um,
I mean, it's right. Yeah.
uh, yeah, yeah. Um, so did you want to talk about Thomas Massie yesterday losing? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So, since we were talking about Thomas Massie already with the gun thing, right?
mm,
So,
yeah,
I guess what I want to say about Massie is there's
yeah,
probably a bazillion things I disagree with Massie on, but it was the
yes,
symbolism of this, that
yeah,
here's this guy who actually stood up to his,
yes,
it's one of the few in the Republican Party who's actually stood up to Trump publicly,
yes,
right? Particularly on the Epstein files. And the Republican Party threw so much money into this race,
yes,
beat this
yes,
guy. So,
Yeah.
but I actually think so. I was disappointed that he lost, but I actually think it's not as bad of a story. Like everyone's saying, like, "Oh, what a gigantic win this is for Trump," and it is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it is a win. But he only lost by about like maybe 10 points after they spent
Right. Yeah.
all
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
millions of dollars.
Yes.
And here was the point I was trying to make online today.
Yeah.
Kentucky has closed primaries.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I'm also in a state with closed primaries. You
Yeah.
only get to vote if you are registered to a party. If you're an
Yeah.
independent,
That's right.
you
Yes.
don't get to vote at all, right?
Yeah.
So
If you're independent or Democrat.
and you
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
vote your own party ballot, right?
Yes.
So who actually was making that decision? Well, it was people who were already MAGA. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean?
That's right.
Plus
Yes.
primary voter like turnout for primaries is historically low compared to like the general
Yes.
elections anyway. So you have this little percent
Yeah.
of the actual constituents there
Yes.
that are actually making that choice. If
Yeah.
independents
Exactly.
could
Yeah.
vote, who knows what the I wouldn't doubt that
Yes.
the outcome would be much different.
Yeah, exactly. Look,
So
for me, this whole thing was really, it was just a Republican thing. It just highlighted the fact that there is no real civil war in the actual Republican Party.
right,
There, there's no,
aren't.
yeah, it is the Trump Party, and I
Right,
think it also
right.
highlighted, for me, it highlighted also that there's this a lot of people who spend a lot of time online have come to the conclusion because people like Thomas Massie has a big presence online, Tucker Carlson has a big presence, Marjorie Taylor Greene does, and therefore you can get the impression that there's this massive civil war within the Republican Party, but it's actually not true. Trump
Right.
still has major control of the Republican Party.
Yep.
What also is true is that it's just the Republican Party. The people
Exactly.
the people that make the difference are independents and swing voters, and they have disappeared in gigantic numbers. So all this did was say only Republicans, because like you said, only Republicans could vote. Um, Overwhelmingly
Exactly,
vote,
Bobby.
vote for it. But
Right.
there was
They
still,
are who we thought they were.
yeah, they are who, yeah. It basically just highlights that the internet isn't real life when it comes to people who vote. Yeah, um, and I think Trump said that
Two-towner.
once. Yeah, Trump said that once in one of his posts. He said, "People like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens are not as popular as you think they are." And that's actually probably a truth. Yeah, yeah. And because
Yeah, and
a lot
you've
of
been
Democrats,
making this point, Joe, the last few
yeah,
weeks we've been on, and
yeah,
you're 100% right about it.
yeah, yeah, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And it is
This
because
this
people don't
primary
realize that.
proves exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, that they don't. Most people who vote aren't online for politics. They're just people who follow Trump in the Republican Party. They might follow him on Twitter or they might follow him on Truth Social, but they're not following it every day. And to them, it's like Trump said Thomas Massie is, because I noticed a lot of the ads I watched some of the ads that AIPAC and some other organizations made against him. It wasn't focused on Israel. The ads were focused on that Thomas Massie was not loyal to Trump, right?
Mhm.
And they were also focused on the fact that they also focused on local things as well, like taxes and things like that. And they said
Right.
that Thomas Massie, and they showed these AI videos that went viral of Thomas Massie hanging out with AOC. Did you see those ones? Did you see those? No,
No,
they
I
went.
didn't actually.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't.
AI, they were done. They were done on like mainstream media, but they were AI videos of Thomas Massie hanging out with AOC and Bernie
Mhm.
Sanders. So they're trying to make the story that she's now part of the far left. Um, I
Right.
think I think so. It wasn't to
When he
me.
voted with Trump like 98% of
Yeah,
the
that's
time.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah. But people don't pay attention to that stuff. They
No,
just,
they don't.
you know,
They don't.
that once
It's
you've got
frustrating.
do you know in sales, a lot of times they say once you have to explain something, a product, it becomes almost impossible to sell it. It needs to be simple. And I think that's the problem these days with voting or trying to get people to vote for you is that you got to give them the most simplistic slogans to win over someone. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it 91%, Len? Did I get that number wrong? Is that the
Yeah,
massive number or
91%. Yeah.
I
Right
know it's
now, I
high
think
though. I
Yeah,
know it's high no matter what
I
it
do think
is.
it went
So I
down over
stand
the
corrected if it's different.
yeah, yeah, that's right, and Sandra said she does pay attention. Len, my goodness, we can't be voting for releasing the Epstein files yet.
Exactly,
Exactly.
right.
Yeah,
God
yeah,
forbid.
I know.
God forbid you
And
should want what you want what you wanted to oh, reported. Okay, gotcha. Alright.
9% report, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I think it was a weird situation because I think, Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you started to see, Tucker Carlson, people saying Tucker Carlson might run at the next elections,
Yeah,
but but if Trump doesn't endorse him, he won't win. He won't win the primary. So, yeah,
no. So this was actually what, should make us even just sort of slightly happy, even though it's not a good
yeah,
outcome for the most part, is that maybe it puts those people in their place a little bit too, because I don't like any of them either.
no,
You know,
I'm not
just
I
because
know.
Tucker Carlson and
Yeah,
Candace Owens are against Trump, that means nothing to me when they're just terrible
no,
people too. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
and
and I
yeah.
can be very forgiving, but not where they're going. No,
No,
absolutely
no,
not.
it's funny because what's worse is that the people in the Republican Party or ex-Republican people are some of the most conspiratorial, crazy people. Like
Yes.
Tucker Carlson is a conspiracy nutcase. Marjorie
Candace
Taylor
Owens.
Greene is a conspiracy nutcase.
Yep.
Candace Owens, Candace Owens is a massive conspiracy nutcase. Like
Yeah.
all the people. So it's like how I so just because they say something on Epstein or something, I've never understood the thing where you then become, because there are people on the far, like people like Cenk Uygur and all that. They've become like
Yes.
supporters of Tucker and Candace.
Right.
Hunter Biden is did an interview with Candace Owens. Did you know that? It's going to be released today.
No.
Yeah,
Don't tell
and
me
I
that, please.
no, and look, I'll be honest with you, it doesn't surprise me because um, Hunter Biden, I watched some of the clips.
No, I don't think very highly of Hunter Biden. Let me put that out
No,
there.
I don't. Look, he's
Yeah.
Hunter Biden was the president's son. And he was a private citizen. He was never part of the Biden
Right.
administration. So,
Right.
but he was definitely attacked, and they went after him. But I
Oh,
think,
yeah, I don't disagree with
but
that.
yeah, but I
I just
agree
don't
with
have that
you.
high of opinion of him
I
personally.
agree with you, and I actually love that you said that, Melissa, because these days we're so we're so focused on either side that we lose nuance. There is no nuance. So because if you say,
Yes.
I don't believe they should have gone after Hunter Biden, but I still don't think he's the greatest person. It's like, whoa, wait a second,
Right.
so we should be able to have
Yeah, it's
nuanced
black and white. You
conversations.
have to.
Yes, it doesn't have
Yeah.
to be black and white, and it doesn't mean like you can say Hunter
Right.
Biden because he did. The fact that I saw the clips and he's gone into conspiratorial stuff, right? About the Eric, about Charlie Kirk being killed. What he says to Candace Owens, why can't people ask questions about it? We should be able to ask questions about it. And then the other clip they show was because it hasn't been fully released yet. The other clip was about how the Democrats went after his dad and how they tried to destroy his dad and
In
all this sort of stuff.
24 that summer.
Yeah, in
Absolutely.
24.
Yeah.
So he's got
Pushed
this,
him out of the ring.
and that's not the first time he's done that. He's interviewed a couple of times, and he's really been focused on Democrats who went after his dad. And look, I get that because that's his dad. I get that because that's your dad.
Yeah.
But if you
Right.
believe, but if you
Right.
believe that Joe Biden wasn't suffering some sort of mental cognitive problem in 2024, I mean, I don't think you're living in reality. Like like that. Like why would you
Yeah.
want
I mean,
why would you want someone who's finding it hard to communicate up against Trump, who's an existential threat? Like you would want the best person up against you. You know what I mean? Yeah.
look, I have family members in that age group that
Yes.
sometimes are perfectly fine, and
Yes.
other times can't figure out what they want to say, can't think of the words they want to use, they can't think clearly. It's like a good days
Yeah.
and bad days type of thing. Now,
Yes.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to sit here and try and
Yes.
diagnose
Yeah.
Biden, but we all saw. I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, we all saw
Yeah.
moments where he was. And now,
Yes.
we see the same thing with Trump, and we've been seeing
Yes.
those for years too. That's why I never
That's right.
understood, well, why is Trump
Yeah.
like, if that's your issue, if your issue is that
Yeah.
Biden's too old, well, why are you voting for Trump? I mean, he's
Yeah,
only a
exactly.
couple
Yeah.
years younger anyway, but, like, and has even worse, issues, but, like,
Yeah.
I guess the thing that bothers me, though, with Biden, Hunter Biden, is
Yes.
that I sort of felt like I didn't understand why Joe's family didn't step in and say, "Look, Dad," or "Look,
Yeah. Yeah,
hubby,"
that's right.
you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they
Like,
should.
maybe
Like,
maybe it's
yeah.
time to because Joe Biden, and I love Joe
Yes.
Biden, I always have. He's from Delaware,
Yeah.
I'm from the Philly
Yes. I
area,
love
it's
Joe
right
Biden as
it's,
well.
like, next
I
door to
love
each
him
other,
as well. Yeah, yeah.
and so I've always loved Biden, and he's a union guy, my dad was a union guy, he was always pro-unions, my dad was a
Yeah.
union guy. So, but, like, but he said he was only gonna run for 1 term, that was the implication,
Yeah.
was that he was going to be sort of this bridge to the future in a sense. So when he was running
Yes.
again, I really, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
And,
I agree because I think Joe Biden was a fantastic president for that time. I think he
yeah,
really
I
was
do
a
too.
fantastic
He did
president.
a lot of really good
And
stuff.
yeah, he did a lot of really good stuff, and he had to come in after COVID. He got
Yeah,
blamed.
he had a
He got
tough
blamed for
right?
COVID inflation. And the interesting thing about COVID, post-COVID inflation, is that it affected the whole planet. Like in Australia, we had it. They had it in Europe. So it wasn't like
Yes.
the idea. And a lot
Right.
of it came from a lot of spending during COVID because governments spent a lot of money during COVID, and then suddenly everyone was at home, and suddenly they were released all at once. And then you had China shutting down all the factories, but they've tried to pin that onto Biden post COVID inflation. Even to this day, they still say
Yeah,
it's his fault because of inflation right now. Um,
exactly.
yeah,
I I mean, for anyone who, like we were saying a little while ago about paying
yeah,
attention, for anybody that
yes,
actually is paying attention
yes.
and was this whole time, like, that is just isn't the truth. That just
No,
isn't
it's
how
not the truth. Yeah,
no, and
and if it was, Trump could have just got rid of it inflation. If it was some, because remember, Trump said, "I'm going to get rid of inflation from day one,"
yeah.
and it's actually gone up. So,
Oh, yeah.
so yeah, so you can't explain if it's Biden's fault, then why did it happen all around the world? And
All around
actually,
the world.
and the other biggest thing is, if actually this was a very hard story to tell, so I get why it didn't work because, but the actual truth of it, if you looked at inflation after COVID, America dealt with it better than any other country by
Yeah,
a million miles.
yeah,
But and they tried to tell that story, but the problem with telling that story is if you're in America and you're suffering, it's like it's like it's a hard thing to say. It's like, yeah, you've got it bad, but you don't have it as bad.
I know. It
You know what I
is.
mean?
It is
Yeah,
because you wanna sound you wanna have empathy anyway, and Joe Biden actually does have a lot of empathy. He's
he
definitely
does.
for the
Yeah,
he's definitely for working people and all of that sort of thing. So, I get it. That
yes,
is a hard message. That's like a tough needle to thread, let's say,
yes,
but I
yes,
think he did do the best that he could. I mean, like, when Trump came
yes,
in, he inherited an economy that was really coming back strong.
yeah. That's
Like,
right. Yeah,
all
yeah,
of the economic indicators were going in the right
yes,
direction,
yes,
and
yeah. I
tanked it.
know. It was. Yeah, I feel sorry, and in a way, I actually think that Joe Biden would have been one of the best people to beat him in 2024 had he been 10 years younger. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, for
Because
sure. Oh, I agree with
because
you. I do.
because Joe Biden has that working class thing about him. He has that, like he sounds like he's about to say something, I don't know, inappropriate sometimes, which is
Yeah, well,
I which
it's
which I
the
no,
caption.
but I think people like that, especially in the Midwest. They think, "Oh, he's not trying to be," because Democrats always come across sometimes as being too, I
Too
don't know,
perfect.
too polished, too corporate,
Polished. Yeah.
polished
Like,
corporate.
focus group. Yeah.
Yeah, like they're constantly thinking about what they're saying. I don't want to say this as where Biden, because of his age and where he came from, like when he said, "Oh, I'm gonna get a black woman vice president," and everyone was like, "Oh, don't say that." But he thought he was doing the right thing, but he didn't think of, you know what I mean? Like he thought, "Oh,
Yeah.
this."
Yeah.
He's thinking,
Yeah.
"This is what
And
this is what people."
part of that's just age, I think.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
generation and stuff. Yeah.
But he's
Yeah.
also trying to, like, the funny part about that was he was trying to be modern. He was probably thinking in his head, "Oh, this is what the modern people are like. So I'll say that I want a black woman. you know,
Yeah.
um, you know, but that's what people loved about him. He was just like a regular type of guy. And but yeah, but the decline got him in. It got him in the end. Yeah. But and yeah, so
Yeah, I
I
mean,
thought
you saw the hate for him too around here, Joe. You would never have believed it for Biden. I mean, it was unbelievable.
really, yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah,
flags everywhere. F Biden. Let's go,
really,
Brandon. Stupid. Right?
yeah,
I mean, it's like, I can see, okay, if you disagree with his policies, you're a
yeah,
Republican. Okay, you don't. I mean, the hatred for him. I mean, I guess it has to do with the fact that these are people that were MAGA, and so they believe that Joe Biden
yes,
stole the election. You know what I mean, or whatever.
yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah,
guess you
yeah,
think that. I mean, maybe that's why you think that way. But like, other than that, I'm like, I can't. Which
yeah,
is bullshit anyway. Of course, we know. But like,
yes,
but like, he just doesn't strike me as the kind of person that would
yeah,
sort of like, create that sense of hatred so much. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I
He's not like Richard
I
Nixon.
agree.
Do
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
I
I
I
don't know.
think they're just um I think they're just copying Trump because Trump was saying
Yeah,
crazy, awful things. And then
yeah,
do you remember when Trump reposted a picture of a truck, a pickup truck,
yeah.
with a picture of Joe
Right,
Biden on the back,
right,
like being tied up. So
right.
it
With
was
like his mouth down
yeah,
and
his mouth down.
yeah, it was like
I mean,
hog
that's
tied and
yeah. So
it's
he
sick.
so I think he was creating the energy against Joe Biden, and also blaming him for the election being stolen and January
Yeah,
6th was
yeah.
an inside job. And then there was a group that blamed for COVID. You know, they thought that he was, the COVID vaccines were like mandated and all that. So there was,
Yeah,
I think there was a COVID aspect to it as well. So
yeah. That's probably true.
yeah,
And you
yeah,
know what? I think I told you this before. I saw
yes,
one of the things I noticed is people literally trying to rewrite history because I've seen people online say, and it's weird
yeah.
because I've seen numerous accounts say almost the same thing. I mean, I
Mhm,
used to love Twitter back in the day. I
mm.
I quit Twitter.
So did I. So
I
I'm
quit
still on
Twitter
it,
when
but yeah, yeah,
Elon came
yeah,
on because I'm like,
yes,
or no, I stayed on until the 2024 election was over. Then I
right,
left
yeah,
because
yes,
it started to suck after Elon came on.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah,
used to love it. But every now and
yes,
then I'll still go in and just like look at stuff. I don't post, but I'll just
yes,
look. And
yeah,
I was seeing a similar post by people, which makes me
yes,
wonder a little bit if it's like a bot thing. But they were saying like
yeah.
my grandmother or aunt or mother or whatever died during COVID. I will never forgive Biden for shutting down the country.
What? That's a weird thing. Like, are they blaming
Well, I'm
him
like,
for?
well, the
Are they
country was
blaming
shut
him
down in
for?
2020.
Are they are they saying the vaccines killed him? Killed their grandma?
No, they're saying that it was Biden that
Yes.
put in the lockdown
Oh, right.
and when
Yes.
people
Yeah.
died.
Yeah. Yes.
They're trying to rewrite in, I guess,
Rewrite
like
history. Yeah.
history
Yeah.
as if
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
the lockdown didn't
Yes.
happen while Trump was president. It happened
No.
while
It was. It
well,
was. It
that's
was.
just false. I mean,
Yes.
anybody who's got a brain knows
Yes.
that the lockdowns were in 2020. Now,
Yes.
there
That's
may
right.
have
Yeah.
been because by 2021 came along when Biden was inaugurated, so
Yes.
the
The
vaccine had
lockdowns
been
were
out about a
finished.
month. Right,
Yes.
people were getting vaccinated. Now, I do know that there were still some school closures here or there, like, if there was an outbreak, you
Yes.
might have a random thing, but the actual big shutdown
Yes.
was in the spring of 2020.
Yeah.
So, like, that's when Trump was president. So, like, it's almost like it reminded me almost of, like, a coordinated effort
Yes.
to get people to forget
Yeah.
that it
Yeah.
was actually Trump.
That's true. And actually,
Strange.
Trump changed his mind on the lockdowns because I don't know if you remember this. He's actually deleted it, but it was like everyone knows it happened. He actually during the lockdowns when the world was doing lockdowns, remember Sweden said they didn't do proper lockdowns. Sweden was one of the outliers,
Yes,
and they
yeah.
said
Mhm.
they did some restrictions where they stopped certain amount of people from showing up in certain areas, but they didn't do like lockdowns. And the countries around it actually who did the lockdowns had a lower death rate at that time. Um, and so Trump tweeted out, Sweden is regretting their decision not to lock down. lots of deaths compared to their neighbours. So, you know, people, I have that one on file because I love that one to use to MAGA when they say, "Oh, Trump was against it," but he was actually
Yeah,
for it. He only became against it afterwards when it became unpopular amongst a lot of
exactly.
people. Um, Also, the other thing they tried to rewrite
Well,
history
not to
about
mention the vaccine,
the vaccine. They always try to rewrite history about the vaccines because Operation Warp Speed was done under Donald Trump, not
right?
under Joe Biden. And the way they try to get around that is by saying, "Yeah, but Joe Biden mandated it," which is there is some truth to that. There is some truth to that. But they will often call it the experimental vaccine. They'll call it the experimental
Yes.
vaccine,
The
um,
mRNA, yeah. Mhm.
mRNA, stuff like that. But I actually
Right.
think that's one of the best things Donald Trump did. Well, or at least in his presidency, was actually doing that, putting the money behind it.
That you'd
Yes.
have to say was probably one of the only decent things he did. There
Yeah.
may have been 1 or 2 other things that
Yeah.
have well, I will say the one other thing, and this goes back to guns. After the mass shooting in Nevada, the Trump administration, the first Trump administration did put the
Yeah.
ban on, bump stocks. So I
Bump
would say
stocks
that
and
that
stuff.
was actually a positive thing, but then they took it out when he came back down, and they got rid
Yeah.
of it,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
kept it back. So, like, well,
Yeah.
there's that one gone. But yes, I will say that obviously the vaccine development
Yes.
was, they threw a lot of money at that, as they should have,
Yeah.
and that was a very, very successful
That's
thing that came
everything.
from
And RFK Jr., obviously, he came in and then he started throwing more mud on it. About the vaccines. But he's got to play like a weird game because his boss his boss was the president in charge
Right.
of the vaccine. So we all know what he thinks about the vaccines, but at the same time, he can't throw his boss under the bus too much. So it's a bit of a weird situation for RFK Jr. Yeah,
It is.
I know.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I think that COVID period is to blame for a lot of the mistrust that you see now amongst a lot of younger people in America and around the world. I think it did more. I think it's affected how people look at politics a lot more than people realize because people went online a lot more during that period, and
Yeah.
they never stopped being online after that. Do you know what I mean? So we have a period now where people use and I'm not just talking about politics, but streaming services or whatever. So they're on TikTok, all that sort of stuff. So I feel
Yeah.
like it's changed the way people look at news and the way people look at politics, and it created a lot of mistrust amongst younger people, and it created a lot of the far right wing groups. I think because a lot of them, it's amazing how much they still talk about COVID. It's like
They
just
do.
all the time.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and,
Like
like, I'm kind of like, I don't think a whole lot about COVID
no,
anymore unless,
no.
you'll hear about, okay, it's kinda going around in the community, so, you be careful, maybe you're gonna go get a
Yeah,
booster, whatever, but it's not
yeah.
something, like, I actively think about anymore. I
No.
look at it as like, look, we had this gigantic global pandemic.
Yes.
People there were some mistakes made in leadership and all, but I do think that most people working in our government, we were talking about Dr. Fauci a few weeks ago,
Yes.
um, they were making the best decisions in at with the
Yes.
knowledge they had at the time, with
Yes.
the public, in mind. We talked about maybe there were some mistakes, like, with the
Yes.
masking thing and all of that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say that there wasn't, but to look at it as if it was like there was like a
No, that's right.
criminally,
Yeah.
right, like
Yeah.
criminal intention there.
Yes.
Um, that's kinda they still want people to go to jail for it.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't know if you've noticed Rand Paul, because there was I think there was like a 2-year period or somewhere between where you could try to prosecute Fauci, and that 2-year period just finished a couple of days ago. And so Rand Paul and Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, and Thomas Massie, of course, have been nonstop online saying that the Trump administration should prosecute Donald Fauci because he lied. I mean, this is the incredible thing. You have a new virus, and everyone's trying to work out what's going on. And
Right.
they say they he makes people make mistakes. They say the wrong thing, whatever, and suddenly you end up in jail. Like, that's just a ridiculous thing. On the other hand, they're going around saying that COVID was just a cold. So,
Right,
like like,
right,
like, what which one is it? Which one is it? Because if he's if it's just a cold, then he can't have done much damage. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah,
and then they'll talk about ivermectin is not being used properly, and it's like, well, why do you need ivermectin if it's just a cold? Why do you need this? Why do you need to take anything if it's
right,
just a cold? Like,
right.
on the
Which
one hand, it's like it's nothing. On the other hand, is you better take ivermectin or you'll die.
right,
It's like what? It's like
right.
yeah, yeah. It doesn't
It
make
doesn't
it
make
does
any
the
sense.
argument.
And
Yeah,
yeah, and I'll tell you, I mean, Joe, I think it's very possible that my brother passed away from COVID because he actually, my
yeah,
brother passed away in January.
yeah.
He died of a pulmonary embolism, but he had
Oh,
COVID like
yeah.
3 weeks beforehand. And he's in his
Wow.
his 50s,
Yeah.
which is
Yes.
like a higher risk, for that. So
Yes.
I think it's very possible that that's not proven that that's what it is because it was,
Yes.
3 weeks after he had recovered.
Yeah.
But I've talked to doctors about this and they say that, yeah, there's that kind of heightened, um, blood clot risk for a while
Yeah.
after, uh,
Yeah.
a COVID infection. And so I really think
Yes.
that that's what happened to him. And so COVID is definitely, it's far more than a cold, as we all know. But yeah, that
Yeah.
never made sense to me. That idea that they're down,
Yes.
they're both making is inflammation, exactly, Live.
Yes.
But yeah, like that it's not serious, and we should all just be able to
Yeah.
do whatever we want. We shouldn't have to wear masks. We shouldn't have to do anything. But at the same time, oh my God, you ruined our life. Like
Yeah. So I
it just
know it's
doesn't make
crazy.
any
It's
sense
like
to me. Yeah.
yeah, or like or they'll say like because I'm Australian, if I'm on Twitter, because I usually go into MAGA areas, they usually will look at my account. They'll see I'm Australian, and they'll say, What do you like?" It could be anything. I could be talking about a completely different thing, and they'll go, "How were the concentration camps during COVID?" Like I get that all the time because I'm Australian because we had lockdowns, like more severe lockdowns. And they'll go, because there were people like Joe Rogan obsessed about Australia because we had more harsh, you know, and it actually
Did you?
wasn't. Yeah. Well, we didn't have
Because I mean, we were stuck at home.
ours were a little bit more harsher than yours, I think.
Okay.
Well, it depended on where you lived in Australia. If you're where I was, there wasn't a lot of restrictions because we actually had no spread in my state, like zero spread. I know it's hard to believe, but
Wow.
we literally kept it down to zero in my state, and then in Victoria, which is where Melbourne is, where Mary is, they had some outbreaks, and therefore they put harsher restrictions on because there was a bigger outbreak. So it depended on
Yeah.
which state you were in. Um,
Okay. Yeah. Well, that
yeah,
happened here too. And it also
yeah,
depended on the politics of who was
yeah.
running your state.
Yeah, exactly
You
right.
know.
Yeah, and it was similar here, but yeah, we had harsher restrictions because you couldn't actually almost there were days in Melbourne where you couldn't actually even leave your home for more than half an hour.
I'm sorry,
Um,
Natalie.
yeah, my brother had
Sorry, I was
COVID, was
just responding to
suffering.
what Natalie said.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And something back
I
from
think
something.
that's what it
Oh,
was,
oh,
Natalie. I'm
wow.
convinced that's what it was. He was healthy. He was
Yeah,
fine until that. So
yeah.
anyway.
Thanks, Kimmy. Thanks for coming. Yeah. So yeah,
Oh,
I
bye,
agree.
Kitty.
Bye, Kimmy. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's a bit of a the first time I got COVID was weird. I knew it was something different even before I tested it. Um, I had this weird symptom where I just got really hungry. I don't know if you ever got that.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think many people have it, but I was starving all the time, and so
Huh.
I would wake up at 3 in the morning really hungry, and I couldn't. So what I do is I go to McDonald's drive-through. Just
So you got to feel what being pregnant is like.
I did. I got the feeling it was the weirdest thing that I asked. I actually ended up going on forums, and I found a forum where there was other people, but it wasn't a lot. It wasn't a common thing. But I became super hungry, and I don't usually have a massive appetite, and I became super hungry for 3 days straight. Where I literally,
Huh.
I went to McDonald's, I got a Big Mac, fries, drink, everything, and then 10 minutes later, it was like I never ate the food, and then I was like, "This is crazy. I can't believe it." Like, yeah.
So did this
So
happen before you got sick or while you were sick?
while I was sick.
Huh.
while I was sick. Yeah,
'Cause I had no appetite when I only had COVID once. We caught it
yeah,
from
yeah,
somebody that my husband works with, and it was in 2023, so I'd already been vaccinated for a few
yeah,
years and had,
yeah,
had, the boosters and all. But, like, the thing that sticks with me, I didn't have much appetite when I had it, but the
yeah,
thing that sticks with me that was weird, I had
yeah.
a buzzing feeling in my head. Like,
Oh,
my
really?
head felt like it was buzzing.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
I don't know
Yeah,
how to describe that sensation, it was so
yeah,
strange. I've never had
yeah.
that before with anything else.
I also had a really sore back. My back was
Ooh,
really
yeah.
sore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Lots of body aches, yep, for sure.
Like specifically my back, yeah, was sore. But yeah, no, it was a weird one. I've never had that. Like I still had a little bit of runny nose, headaches, but the headaches weren't super bad. But yeah, it was just the eating, constant eating. It was like I was pregnant. It was very similar to being
Yeah,
pregnant.
that's
Yes.
what it reminded me of. Because I
I don't know.
remember when I
Yeah,
was pregnant years ago, waking up in the middle of the night being like, "If I don't get back to sleep soon, I'm gonna have to eat something." I
yeah.
remember eating cereal in the middle of the night just so
Really?
I could
Well,
yeah.
Tamara said, "How did you connect the hunger to COVID?" That wouldn't have been my first thought because I wasn't hungry before then. I literally, as soon as I got sick, I got hungry, and then as soon as COVID went away, my hunger went away. So it was like it only happened during when I was sick with COVID. Um,
So, maybe that was your immune system, like, building itself up to, like, some degree. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, maybe it was weird
beat
because
a COVID, starve a fever.
literally like eating McDonald's would generally feed
Like,
like
fruit and pickles, right?
I never had it yet because okay, I've been having high blood pressure ever
Hey, I
since.
would crave
Oh
ice cream
wow.
and pickles even without being pregnant or
Yeah,
having
bro.
COVID.
Yeah. I
Give me
can't eat
sweet and salt.
I can't eat McDonald's anymore because I've since found out I'm a celiac, so I can't eat gluten. So yeah,
Oh, wow, okay.
that's one of the things
A
I
lot of
miss.
people have that.
Celiac disease, yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
actually I think it's more common these days than it used to be.
it does seem
Uh,
like it, yeah, I hear that a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard when you try to go to a restaurant and you've kinda got to find out if they've got proper,
Yeah.
you know,
What they
they look
have,
after
right?
yeah, celiac, got it they cross contamination and all that sort of stuff, so yeah. When I get the flu or cold, I start craving protein, chicken, tuna, stuff like that.
Uh,
Wow. Yeah,
chicken, I totally do. Chicken is healing.
yeah,
I think so.
yeah, yeah,
I
or
always want
pasta.
that's what I crave too,
I
chicken and, like, rice. That's kinda
yeah,
it.
yeah, or
Um,
spaghetti bolognese, like, just and garlic bread. That's what I feel like when I get hungry, like spaghetti bolognese and garlic bread. Yeah, yeah.
wow. That's a
It's a
heavy
rock
meal for, like, when you're not
it's a
feeling well.
Rocky Balboa apparently was a big fan of, spaghetti bolognese.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So it worked for
Huh.
him.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I was gonna talk about the Trump slush fund.
Oh
Oh,
god.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I I I just I'm sick
That is the
over it.
weirdest that is the weirdest thing, isn't it? Like, he sued so first of all, he sues the IRS for $10 billion, but
Right.
he knew they were gonna throw that out within a couple of days. So then he withdraws it before they
Right.
now I'm hungry.
So we
Tamara's
create
hungry
this
now.
settlement.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
settlement. Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
yeah, settlement. Um, and then part of the funniest part is when I saw why he sued, he sued because one of the reasons for trying to get the $10 billion was that by the New York Times releasing his tax returns, it embarrassed him, right? And it caused him damage. But every other president releases their tax returns, and
Of their own accord. Yeah.
they're not embarrassed by it. So why
Right.
would he be embarrassed about tax returns being released when every other president does it? Like, what is it about him that would be so you only be embarrassed if you're trying to hide something? Because the New York Times didn't say all the New York Times did was release his tax returns. They didn't like say he was this or that. They just released them. Um, so yeah, so I don't get his reason. And then his other thing was he has to claim if you sue someone, you have to claim damages. Well, Trump has since made his wealth has gone up through the roof. So we can't claim damages. So, you know, it was never gonna work. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And everybody's saying, and obviously it's not going to pass muster. I mean,
No.
Congress will have something to say about it, or they should. The courts, okay, but
Yeah.
and they got sued. He got sued today by the cops from January
Yes,
6th that
January
are,
6th. Yeah.
no one should get a payout for that.
Yes.
Which, of course, um, to me, this is the thing that scares me.
Yeah.
It almost doesn't matter that it
Yes.
doesn't get through.
Yeah.
It's the attempt alone, right? So
Yes.
openly,
Yes.
so publicly, at a time when people are actively saying that government corruption is something that they're concerned about going into the
Yeah.
midterms.
Yes.
To me, that's done by somebody who knows they're not gonna have any consequences.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what scares me.
Yeah. You're right. He knows he can get away with it even if it doesn't work. I feel like what he
Right.
does is he just throws mud at the wall and hopes something will stick. So he'll just
I agree with you
like
about Congress. Karen F.
yeah,
and Tamara, Congress is
yeah.
basically dead.
Basically, yeah, there is no real Congress now. Yeah. And hopefully that
It
changes after the midterms because I
Well,
do think that
yeah, hopefully.
I I do think the Democrats will win the House at least. I don't know about the Senate, but I do think they'll win the House. Um so but yeah, and then then they sound concerned like Susan Collins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Susan Collins
Yeah.
concerned. We need
Yeah. Well, the other thing is like the slush fund and the one point I think it's $1.7 billion slush fund.
right, and then
Sometimes I just can't. Sometimes I have to
oh, he's so
laugh.
patriotic.
Yeah, you're so patriotic. Sometimes you have to laugh. JD Vance is like he's been looking after Caroline Levitt's job recently of the press secretary, and it actually, to be honest with you, suits him in a way because he's very good. He just lies all the time, and he's good at lying on behalf of Trump. Um, and when he was talking about the slush fund, because he was asked about reporters about it, and they said, well, you have this 1.7 slush fund. You get to decide who gets it. And it's for people who've been felt like they've been wrongly done by the Biden administration, right? And he said something like, I actually wrote this down. This is what he said about it. Let's turn a page on let's turn a page. Everyone from Democrats and Republicans on from what the last administration did, the Biden administration, that we tried to put people in jail not because they did something wrong, but because of their politics. Can you like?
Dan said
I
that?
find it. Yeah, Vance said that yesterday during his press conference when he was talking about the slush fund. He
Yeah.
literally said he literally said you, now you could imagine that he was talking about Trump, right? You could imagine that he's talking about Trump because he's saying let's turn a page on going after people for because of their politics. Meanwhile, you've got James Comey, John Bolton,
Right.
Letitia James. You've got
Jim
all
Comey
these
over
people.
seashells.
See,
Seashells.
right? They're
Backstage.
like, yeah, and he's like, let's turn a page, let's move on from that, and then and the way he tries to act bipartisan about it. I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat or
Yeah.
it's kind of hilarious. Yeah, um, yeah. Look, what Natalie just said is what I said on one of my notes. I would love to see everyone apply. It says my connection is unstable.
It says yours is.
No, it says yours. It says yours. It says
It's
Melissa
probably me.
Amour's.
It's
It
probably
says
because of my
Melissa
phone died.
Amour's.
Wait,
Yeah,
so the weak
yeah,
Republicans. Yes, Natalie is right.
yes,
I saw everybody saying yes, Natalie, yes, Natalie. So I went to
yeah.
go
That's
back and see
right.
what
Yeah,
Natalie's saying. It is
that
all,
would be
and
fun.
it is this.
Yeah,
None of this would be happening without the Republicans in Congress. The
exactly.
pathetic,
Yeah,
weak,
it would
fine.
be hilarious to see James Comey apply for that slush fund. You know what I mean? It would be
I know.
hilarious. It would just like yeah.
Wouldn't that be great?
I do feel like they've been done hard by and Letitia Jack. They could do like like a joint thing together, like Letitia James, James Comey, John Bolton, anyone who Trump's
Yeah,
tried to put in
yeah,
prison,
a class
they could do a
a
joint
class
one,
action lawsuit.
a
Right,
class
but
action
everybody's been
lawsuit.
targeted by Trump.
Yeah, everyone's been targeted by Trump, yeah. Except in the slush fund, it specifically says the Biden administration. So that's the part, like they try to get, it's like,
Okay, so
oh,
they
okay, yeah, yeah. It's amazing that you can say something like that on TV, so openly, brazenly, while your boss is deliberately going up. Like Todd Blanche is really like the Roy Cohen, of remember Roy Cohen?
looking that way.
Yeah,
It's
he's
looking that
like
way.
he was his personal lawyer, and now he's like it's
Mhm.
like they're not even trying to hide the fact that he's going after his enemies. It's just like, yeah, it's a weird situation.
My guess is that this was probably the plan all along. He
Yes,
put Bondi in. He
yes,
figured that she would be able to get confirmed. And
yeah,
maybe the plan all along was really to have Blanche in and then, like, give her the boot and
yeah,
then and just have him as acting
acting,
so
yeah,
that,
yeah,
you don't have to necessarily go through that whole confirmation process right away,
confirmation,
but
yeah, yeah,
the whole thing is just
yeah. I got a feeling he's going to be
it's like
acting.
it's actually, like, sickening, like,
Yeah, is there a
and we're
limit
supposed to be
on how long?
celebrating this 250th
I know.
anniversary. I'm sorry, Joe, I completely,
Yeah,
interrupted
no,
you
I
there.
agree. I agree. Is
But
there
it's
a limit?
very hard to,
Yeah,
you know what
I
I mean?
know. Yeah, is there a limit on how long he can be acting for?
I think there are I don't know. I
Because
think
it's
there are rules
interesting
around that,
because
but I
because
honestly don't know that. I'd have to look
because if
that up.
if there's no limit, I have a feeling because that would be weird if there's no limit because then you wouldn't have to be confirmed. You could just go, well, he's acting until the end of the administration.
Well, and that's
Yeah,
what somebody was just confirmed, not Warsh, it was somebody else, that they said this is the first time that somebody's
yeah,
actually been confirmed in this position in
yeah,
either of Trump's terms.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
He had
Yeah, that's
somebody
right.
acting the entire time. I think that's almost like a loophole. If you have somebody
Yes,
who's just acting
yes,
and you can kind of just, like, drag that out,
yeah,
you don't have to
until
go
the
through
end
the
of it.
confirmation process.
Yeah, or even if there's
The
like, let's just
swimsuit
say,
portion of
like, super, yeah, Tamara. Yeah, yeah,
that's a
yeah,
good one, Smart. I like that.
yeah. I know. There is a lot of there is a lot of um what I was going to say, like reality TV stars in the Trump administration.
Yeah.
who's the infrastructure guy? What's his name again? The
You mean transportation?
Yeah, transportation. Yeah, yeah,
Sean Duffy?
yeah. He came from reality
Doing the
TV
little
as well.
reality show?
Yeah, like
Is that what
he
you're talking
came from
about?
reality TV, and he's doing this thing going across America and stuff at the
With the
moment
family.
with the family, which is like a
Yeah,
reality TV show, like the
yeah,
Osmonds. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
really
and he said
weird. Like,
that's his job is to make people wanna drive across the country again.
yeah, and how much are they paying for gasoline?
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
What?
yeah.
Ugh,
It's a
I
weird
know.
thing. Yeah, and they
It's
went
so
after people with
frustrating.
jets all the time as a transport person. They always went after people with jets. Yeah, yeah,
Right, and he
um,
actually did the job. I love
yeah.
Pete Buttigieg. I just
I,
love
I
him.
I think he might be my I think he might be my favorite, but I think the fact that he's gay might be a problem in winning. Um, yeah, I don't
I
know.
mean, I mean, you're probably right. I hate that you're right, but you probably
Yeah,
are.
yeah, I think it might be a problem. Um, like
He's
if
so
there
good.
was
He's so
like no,
smart.
if there if there was no electoral college system, I think he probably could win. But you have to win the 7 swing states, which are generally socially conservative. Um,
Oh my
so
gosh,
yeah,
crazy.
$6.09 a gallon for gas. Well, Bob, this is a great time to go around America, travel around America, do the
Yeah,
Sean Duffy thing, just re-experience America.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Glad you can
yeah.
afford it, Sean.
Sean's a great guy. Yeah, yeah. I know. I know.
Uh,
Yeah, I know. It's for me. I feel like the Democrats. I don't I always try to think I agree men will have a problem with a gay man as president. It's true, Sandra. Unfortunately, I do think some men will, and some women. I actually know a lot of. I'm surprised at how many women have a problem with gay people. It's more than you realize. You know, you would think it'd be less, but in like
Yeah,
the
you would.
MAGA in the MAGA universe, there's actually a significant amount of women who, yeah, I'll rise. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there was a lot of real, like, I was just having a conversation with my husband yesterday, and I said, "Do you think you
yeah,
can, like, how precise do you think you can be guessing if someone is MAGA or if they're a liberal or whatever, like, what their
yeah, yeah,
politics are?" Because yesterday was our primary day here,
yes,
and he said, "I don't think it's as easy as it used to be," and it's not. It used to be,
yes,
you could almost tell just by how someone looked, like, "Oh, that's a liberal. Oh, that's a conservative," but it's
yeah,
not as easy as it used to be, and I think that there's
no,
a lot of women that are a lot more conservative than we might think.
yeah,
Clearly,
that's
the
right.
white women anyway voted for Trump.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I think the biggest thing now is age and education, like what your
Education
education is.
especially.
Yeah, yeah. Your education is the biggest thing. Like college voters always going to be Democrat. I mean, even the funny thing is Zora Mandami. Yeah, many are closeted hypocrites. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of closeted gays in the Republican Party. It's always hilarious when you find out that the grinder um, numbers
I
skyrocket
know.
during Republican conferences.
Let's
Yeah,
see out CPAC is in town, and
CPAC
suddenly
is
they're
in town.
crashing.
Yeah, all the closeted gays are out there. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's pathetic.
I
Is
know,
that
I know. Just come out and be open about it. What was that? What
oh,
was that?
I love
Um,
Pete too.
Pete is very
Good dude.
well liked. He's relatable in an addresses way. I woke up like any other father for you. Tap on my shoulder. Yeah, he's
He's a good
fantastic.
dude.
And the great thing about Pete is he's not afraid to go on any show and debate people.
That's what
Um,
I love about him.
yeah,
Because
because some
he's
Democrats are
so
not
good. He's
used to
so
that.
on point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Some Democrats are not used to going on other shows.
Yep.
And because like Kamala Harris was kind of just constantly on MSNBC or CNN,
Yeah.
which is like preaching to the converted. But Pete Buttigieg, you'll see him on Fox News, you'll see him on a podcast, you'll see him like
Yeah.
everywhere. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think you
Give
sort
him a
of,
ton of credit for that.
yeah, exactly right. Yeah. The other thing I was going to talk about in Australia, something happened a couple of years ago is that the demographics have changed about who's votes the most. And it used to be boomers was the biggest voting group. And
Yes.
now, as of 2 years ago, the biggest voting group now is Gen Z and millennials. And so, because of that, we're now seeing politicians making policies that are more towards young people then because that's the biggest voting block. Um, and I think in America, that's about to happen in a couple of years' time, where the biggest voting group is no longer going to be boomers, it's going to be Gen Z and millennials. Because every year, obviously, boomers will pass away. And every year, there's more Gen Zs who come onto the voting thing. Yeah, my kitty's perched up on my shoulder watching you too. Oh,
Oh,
Tamara, that's
I love
great.
that.
Yeah. My dog, Nibbles, is on that couch. So, yeah.
My
Yeah,
Pickles dog is in the other room.
in the other room, yeah.
Well, first of all, I have to say I love Gen Z. I mean, that sounds so much
Yeah,
cooler than Gen Z.
yeah, that's right, Gen Z,
So
yeah.
you
Oh,
guys
yeah.
say Z is Z. You say
Uh,
Z.
I'd probably say Z more than Z, Gen
I
Z.
love that.
I
I
think
think
you can
that's
say it
awesome.
either way, yeah, Gen Z. It's probably an Aussie thing, Gen Z, yeah,
I love that.
yeah. Don't
Go
skip
Gen X.
Generation yeah, I'm Gen X, we're both Gen X, Melissa, but yeah, yeah, but I think, in terms of
No, you're right though.
people who vote more left wing are generally Gen Z and millennials, will generally vote more to the left. I think a 25-year-old female, and I think it's similar in America, is more likely to vote for, say, the Greens Party, and a 25-year-old man is more likely to vote for like a centre left government, just in general, in terms of Gen Z and millennials. Yeah,
Okay, interesting. So
yeah,
now I'm just going to tell you how this is just from how it feels to
yeah,
me. This isn't based on any data.
yes,
so in America, to me, the millennials are the Obama generation in my mind. Like
Yeah.
that sort of
Yes.
they're that sort of liberal, right?
Liberal.
Or
Yes.
Democrat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gen Z is a lot more progressive.
Yes.
Now, the
That's right.
ones that are Democrats, because
Yeah.
you also have a, especially among the guys, the young guys, you have
Yes.
this contingency of MAGA guys, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
these trad women too. Like, I don't think
Yes.
that's a gigantic number, but
No.
it
No.
did. You do have that little niche, right? But
Yes.
they come across to me as much more progressive than
Yes.
whereas millennials come across more to me as sort of moderate Democrats, right?
Liberal. Liberal. Yeah. More
Now, I
liberal.
don't know if everybody else would agree with me, but that's how it feels to me.
Yeah, I know you're definitely based on data, you're definitely right. The younger
Okay.
you are, the younger you are, like Gen Z is definitely more progressive than millennials are, and Gen Z, yeah, Gen Z is is definitely the most progressive out of the lot, and um, they're the ones who are more concerned about Israel than any other group. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Very much so.
yeah.
Yes. Very there's
Israel is like a massive um, oh,
that's a
Ellen G. Obama's
huge
Generation
topic for them.
Jones. Yeah, it's a big topic for them. In Australia as well, in America,
Yeah, no, well,
around
let me just say, Len, I didn't mean that Obama is a millennial. I meant that for
the
millennials,
supporters.
they're that they because he was sort of like he
Yeah,
was president when they were sort of in their 20s, and
yeah, yeah.
I think that I think of them as being that sort of Democrat. So I didn't mean
Yes,
to
that's
suggest
right.
that Obama is a
Yeah,
is
that's right.
well,
Yeah, yeah,
obviously not.
yeah. He's
Yeah,
popular.
yeah, he's popular.
Yeah, that's right.
Is what I
Yeah,
meant. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the way I
yeah.
take it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, even like Zoran Mandami, because he comes across as like a person that working class people would like, but actually the people who voted for him the most were Gen Z and millennials, but they were actually not necessarily they weren't actual working class people, people who work in that sort of area. It was actually college educated people, people with college degrees, but people with college degrees whose job didn't pan out. So they went and spent 4 years.
Oh,
They went and spent this was his biggest demographic. People who went to college for 4 years, got out and couldn't find a job.
and have
That
tons
was
of debt.
yeah, tons of debt, high rents, high you can't afford to buy a home. That was Zoran Mandami's biggest demographic that voted for him, and that's becoming one of the biggest new demographics in America that didn't exist before, which is the college educated people who can't get jobs because of AI, automation, and stuff like that.
Scary.
And that's, yeah. And those people are generally going more further to the left than Democrats because they see Democrats as a better party, but they also see the two party system as the reason why they're in their situation.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
yeah. So, but
Very
they
interesting.
those people don't will never go far right because also there's a lot of populism on the far right because
Wow.
they're too educated to fall for the immigrants
Right,
are to
right.
blame for everything. You know what I mean? But at the same time, they think they'll vote Democrats, but if they had a third option, they'd probably vote Greens or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
On
exactly.
that point,
But they feel
yeah,
stuck
yeah,
because this is the way our stinking system is over here. All
exactly
right.
right.
I'm just
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
at how much energy I've left on my phone.
Not much. You got to go. Yeah, yeah.
Not much, like
Not much. Yeah,
20%.
20%. Yeah.
I don't know why it does this. It just drains it.
And I've been accused of that too, but never well off enough, so I didn't. Oh, what? Tamara? Been accused of that too, but never was well off enough, so I didn't. Okay. Yeah. The Jones comes from keeping up with the Joneses. Yeah.
Yeah, so that
Yes.
Generation Jones is a subset of the baby boomers.
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
the late baby boomers. They're still technically baby boomers, but it's kind of like a distinct subset from the
Yes.
earlier baby boomers. Yeah,
Right. Gotcha. Yeah. 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 Interesting.
because I saw
Yeah.
people talking about that generation. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
They keep up with the Joneses. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because I think keeping up with the Joneses. I think it'll be interesting to see when in America as older people pass away, newer young people become the biggest demographic. They're gonna It's interesting to see how the policies change like they did in Australia, where they go, "Well, we now need to," because if you look generally, most parties will actually make their policies towards older people in terms of, because they want, for example, they want house prices to go up. Older people will own homes, so you don't want to do anything that makes home prices come down, which can affect
Right.
younger people, right? So you want that capital gains to keep going up and up and up. But what happens when the younger generation is saying, "I can't afford to buy a home," and then the boomers are now the smallest demographic? Do they then change? Do they? I'm not saying they tank the house prices, but they bring in something to make it a little bit fairer or slow down the home prices, because that's what they did in Australia. They brought in a new
Uh,
policy, which is a big thing in Australia, because the centre left party broke their promises at the last election. Generation Jones, Gen X millennials, and Gen X tend to centre to the left on the spectrums. Yeah, the only one I would say, I would not I would disagree a little bit, is that Gen X, a lot of Gen X did, this is my generation, our generation, did actually go to Trump. I
yeah.
think
No, yeah,
that
there is. There's
there was a
definitely a, Gen X, I also, because that's also my generation. We grew
yeah,
up under Reagan, and there's
yes,
a lot of people that still have that very sort of Reagan view of the world. Um,
yes,
you know.
yeah. Or they looked at Donald Trump as an outsider, anti-establishment, and as we know, some Gen X people can feel like, you know, because you might have grown up also in the 90s during that sort of,
Yeah,
anti-establishment
right,
period.
depending
As
which part
as
of Gen X you are. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
But
Because
the
I probably
earlier
like
Gen X,
for me, I
I'm kind of
remember
right in
this.
the middle. I was born in '72. I don't know about
Right,
you, but I'm, like, right in the middle.
I'm a little bit younger, so I remember more the early 90s. So for me, it
Yes.
was more like, more I don't know, I don't know, like Nirvana period or that sort of, I think we talked about that before.
Yeah,
So
that's when
that's
I
what
was
I
in
remember.
college.
Yeah. And so I remember that bit like as being like anti-establishment, watch the X-Files. We were like the outside group, whatever. And so I watched,
Yeah,
as I said before, watched a lot of my friends become conspiratorial.
yes.
You
Right,
know,
I remember us saying
yeah,
that. Yes, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So my
So
husband
yeah,
was really into all of that, like,
yes,
he was I was mu very much a mainstream kinda gal. My husband was very much a
yes,
alternative, like you were saying, the grunge and the hardcore,
yes,
like, punk type scene, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Kind of,
yeah,
interesting, yeah.
yes. Generation Jones had the best music. We came of age in the 80s. Yeah, I love. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
I
actually
always say
went
I
and
feel
saw.
bad for anyone that didn't get to experience the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Like, I just think that,
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
we were
I loved
lucky.
80s. I loved 80s music. I loved it.
I
You know,
love I
but the
love
funny,
70s, 80s,
yeah, the funny thing
early
about the
90s. I like
80s,
grunge, I like rap, from the
yeah,
early
I like a bit of rap as well. I loved a bit of rap. I
yeah.
loved Cypress Hill. Did your husband like Cypress Hill?
Oh my god, we both did. Yeah, yeah, totally.
You both
In
did.
Tang.
So Cypress Hill
I
was
like
my
Ice T.
favorite band for so long. I love Cypress Hill. I actually saw them play in Australia.
No, Cypress Hill was awesome. My husband saw Nirvana, like, at a small club.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
first coming up. He got to see a
Yes.
lot of bands, actually. Public
Yes.
Enemy, do you remember Public Enemy? Rap band, love
Oh, I
them.
love Public Enemy. Yeah,
He
yeah,
saw
yeah.
them. He saw a lot of
Yes.
bands when they were first coming up. He was
Yeah,
lucky.
wow. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I saw Hole
yeah,
playing Australia.
exactly, Sandra.
Insane the Membrane. Insane
Yep.
the Membrane. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I might have been on some substances while I was listening to that music, but I'm not
Oh, we
denying.
won't go there. We won't go there. But see,
Yeah,
who my favorite band of all time is?
yeah.
The Beatles.
Well, oh, but
I'm a huge
yeah, yeah,
Beatles
I
fan.
love I love the Beatles. Yeah, I do love the
Zeppelin, I saw
Beatles.
someone say Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Queen, if I can
This
only
is my
listen to any
favorite.
kind of music one time, yeah, Bowie.
Yeah,
If I can only listen to one
yeah.
kind of music, one genre for the rest of my life, it's classic rock. 70s
Classic rock.
rock,
Yeah,
classic
yeah.
rock, yes.
I've got to
I would
say
take that any day.
Bowie's probably my favorite. I love David Bowie. He's my favorite. Um,
Yeah, Bowie is
uh,
wonderful.
yeah, I love
That's
Bowie.
just like somebody said, 70s music, timeless. It's the truth. My daughter
Oh,
listens to
yeah,
70s
yeah,
music,
yeah,
and
yeah,
she's Gen Z, all of that.
exactly, and,
Best music ever.
Stairway to Heaven, Bohemian Rhapsody,
Stevie Nicks,
um,
love that music.
yeah, yeah, that was a great Duran, I loved from the '80s.
Oh, I
I love
love
Duran.
Duran
That
Duran. Can
was
I just tell you is so underrated?
yes. Oh,
Simon Le
yeah.
Bon is one of the best songwriters.
Oh
I'm
my
not even
god,
kidding.
I saw so on where my phone is right now because I have all these record players. I have all these old record players next to, and I have a record player right here. And
Journey is
what
good.
and yeah, Journey. And what's
AC/DC,
holding up
Van
is
Halen,
Van Halen was the best. I have a
love Van
Duran
Halen.
record
Yeah,
right
yep.
here.
In Excess. Oh, I saw them
In
twice.
excess, Australian.
Yeah. Oh, I loved them. I was
Michael
crushed when Michael
Hutchins.
Hutchins died.
Oh yeah, he was considered a big sex symbol in Australia. He actually dated. Have you ever heard of Kylie Minogue?
Yeah, of course. She did the local
Oh,
food
you
challenge.
have. I'm surprised because a lot of
Yeah,
people don't
yeah,
know Kylie Minogue. Yeah,
yeah.
She
Yeah.
dated him for a long time. Yeah, yeah. Duran, Grateful Dead. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I like Styx. Styx gets a bad rap, but I like Styx. I think they were really good.
yeah. You know who I liked? I liked Hole, which was
Who?
the Hole
Oh,
HOLE.
oh, oh, what's her name?
Yeah, from Nirvana. She went out with Kurt Cobain. What's that? Oh, she's Courtney
They were
Love.
married.
Courtney Love.
Courtney Love. Thank you.
Yeah.
See,
Um,
I'm
I
like getting old. Like I get these senior moments. I don't remember people's
I
names.
watched her in Australia at the Big Day. We have a music festival called the Big Day Out, and he had just died, and she came to Australia and did a tour for Hole, and she was amazing live.
Wow.
I mean, like she was amazing live, and but she apparently the news also said that people were blaming her for the death because you remember there was a conspiracy that she
Oh, a
killed.
lot of people did.
Yeah,
They did. Yeah. They kind of felt like it was her. They
her
always blame
fault.
the woman. For everything.
Yeah. Sandra, I was a huge Massie Star fan in high school. Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
As he stopped.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What did they say? What is it? They had a famous song, right? Like a big hit,
I think they
but I
did.
can't think of what it was.
Yeah, I can't remember it either.
Yeah. What was the song, Sandra? I know
What's
they have a big.
yeah. Was Olivia Newton-John big in America?
Of course.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
loved
yeah,
Olivia Newton-John from Grease.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
Grease was
yeah.
a huge phenomenon here when I was a little
What
kid.
about her other
It's like,
albums? Like her albums and stuff?
oh,
You know,
like
like
Physical was like when she did
yeah,
Physical, that was like the number one album of the year, or
yeah.
I mean, that was a huge, huge hit here. Yeah, no, she was
Devoted?
popular. People loved her.
Yeah, she was quite big. Yeah, I think she actually lived in America most of her life. She
Yeah,
was huge.
exactly. She was
Yeah,
huge.
right.
Loved her. I was so
Yeah,
sad when she passed away.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Xanadu
Mm,
Physical, and she did country.
Grease, Xanadu, exactly. Xanadu,
Oh,
songs
yeah,
from Xanadu. I swear to God, I still love them.
yeah. Do you guys do ice skating in
Xanadu.
Philadelphia? Do you have ice skating in Philadelphia?
So when I was a kid,
Yeah,
wait, she was just answering. Hold on, wait. Mazzy,
yeah,
Caesar G, turning into dust. That's it.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I was thinking of. Thank you, thank you. Yes.
yeah,
So, I don't know why I thought that was a band.
yeah,
So anyway,
yeah.
yes. So roller skating was always big around here when I was growing up. But we do have
Right.
like
Okay.
you can go ice
Yeah.
skating too.
Yes.
But the roller skating was super popular when I was a kid. I
Yes.
sucked at it, but
But we had roller skating. We also had like ice skating, but it was like indoors because it's too warm here. But they would always play like "You Spin Me Right Round, Baby," like as,
yeah,
that
yeah.
was the
Like a
one that they
record,
always
baby.
played at the band. It was always the '80s songs and stuff like that. It's funny, like whenever I'm going back to MAGA a bit, you know how MAGA always say, "Oh, the left is so woke." There's left is so, like if you go back to the '80s bands, like they were so androgynous, like in the '70s and the '80s,
Right?
like everyone was so androgynous back then. David
Exactly.
Bowie was androgynous. A whole bunch of like people, like even Led
Do you
Zeppelin,
remember the cover to
Robert
the album
Plant.
by Poison?
Oh
Poison's
yeah,
first.
the
They're in like full makeup.
glam, yeah, glam bands. Yeah, from the 80s with the big
I don't get,
hair.
like, what the big
Yeah,
production is now. I'm like, "Y look,
yeah,
my parents went to Atlantic City years ago and
yeah,
saw a drag show, like, a gr
yeah,
it
yeah,
was a men imitating, like, Barbara Streisand, they
yes,
did, what's her face? Judy Garland, like, all the
yes,
famous sort of diva
yeah,
singers. That was
yeah.
not considered a weird thing to do back then. That was, like, a
No,
popular show, and then
yeah,
all of a sudden, they decided to make it such a, like, a
a weird
I don't know, like, a taboo all of a sudden. I
yeah,
don't know
it's
what
a weird
happened.
thing because, like, the times that they love was a time when people didn't really care as much, you know what I mean? Like, like,
Yeah,
like
right. It
yeah.
is weird.
I mean, think about all the rock bands like Led Zeppelin. Remember Robert Plant from, Led Zeppelin, the
Yeah,
singer? He would wear, like just florals around his top,
yeah,
like florals and
yeah,
stuff, like, Rolling
exactly.
Stones. Look at the way Rolling Stones used to dress up. Like,
Right.
look, it was so camp. It was ridiculously camp,
Yeah.
and nobody cared, and then you'd have, like and you
Yeah,
go
Elton
to
John, he was huge in the '70s.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, yeah. I know. It's really weird how we've gone back to being more like conservative.
yeah,
And yeah,
weird.
and now, yeah, I know. Do you guys know Dane Edna Everage, the comedian? Did that ever happen?
What's
She
the
ever come
name?
to Dane Edna Everage? She was,
Oh, yeah, 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 sure. Mhm.
yeah, he was a guy dressed as a woman, right?
Yeah.
And he would just make fun of everyone. Yeah.
Mhm.
He recently died, and
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, and but he was Australian, and he would go around the world, and he lived in the UK for a long time. But he was straight. He wasn't gay or anything. He was straight. He was actually
Right.
conservative in his real life. Like he was actually voted conservative.
Like,
Barry Humphries.
politically?
So Barry Humphries is his name. Yeah, yeah. He was politically, yeah, but not like super conservative. But he was
Right,
conservative.
right, right.
And he was, he was. It was like he was like had a family, he was straight, all that stuff. But his whole life was dressing up as a woman and playing a character. And people loved it,
Yeah.
for years. And the people who loved it was a lot of like like sort of macho men. They would love to watch
Right.
him. So it's just like something's happened. Something's
Well,
happened.
and do you do you remember the show Benny Hill?
Oh yeah. Benny Hill.
Even though these speech racism.
My dad's
And, like,
favorite show.
my dad,
Yeah,
my grandfather, who were, like,
yeah,
manly
yeah,
men types, they thought that show was hilarious.
yeah, yes,
And you would dress up that way.
yes.
Exactly, exactly.
Yes,
So,
him
I
and
don't
Benny
know
Hill,
what's
they played
it's
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was such a funny
I
show.
remember Kate Chaltammer.
Yeah, I'd watch my
Absolutely.
dad watching it, and there was always, like, skimpy women in it, and it always feel like, "Oh, dad, what are you watching?" Like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hey,
I
that's silly
know.
music. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It was a weird time, I know.
Yeah,
Anyway,
it's funny.
different times for that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, well, I'll probably let you go. Do is your phone about
Yeah.
to die?
Yeah, I have let me see, I have 19% battery. So I lost
19. Yeah.
1% since the last time, yeah, so that's not, like, too bad, but yeah, but
No.
it's getting to 9 here,
Yeah,
so
it's getting a little bit def yeah. Did you wanna talk about anything else? Is there anything that I missed that you want to talk about?
no, I think we covered a lot of ground today. This one was fun
Yes.
because we also got to talk about music and stuff too.
I know. I like doing that because it's, like, interesting because, like, even though Australia and America are very I think what we realize is we're actually not that dissimilar, like, in terms of what people listen to or watch and things like
Yeah,
that. It's actually quite similar. Yeah.
it
It's
is,
not
it really is, yeah, like, we have, like, a lot of the same, cultural references, so,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, I
Thanks,
know.
Len.
That was great. Thanks, Ben, for that. Thank you, Leva. Thanks, Sandra. Thanks, Tamara. This was such a refreshing change. Oh, thank you. Thanks,
It
both
is
of you.
good to
Thanks,
laugh,
Sandra.
I agree, Sandra, yeah,
Good
yep,
to laugh.
so
Yeah, sometimes you have to have some fun too. Too much serious, not enough shooting the breeze. Exactly, man.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Melissa. We'll do it again in a couple of
Thanks,
weeks.
Joe. I'll talk to
Thanks,
you soon. You
everyone.
take care. Bye, everybody. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Lynette. Thank you. Civilian Australia, similar. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Hey, bye
Outsiders.
now.
Outsiders. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rocky Balboa. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Bye
There
bye.
you go.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.